So many lessons learned. When I joined Journey to Esquire, I was seeking a community that supported diverse students like myself, as well as a community that reflected my drive and passion for the law. For you to truly understand how invaluable this experience has been to me, I need to let you in on what my journey has been, especially because I know there are others who share my struggles, and it is with programs such as Journey to Esquire that I believe they can also find their own path to success. And you can hit the next slide. I grew up in Los Angeles in the 90s and early 2000s. My mother is an undocumented immigrant from Mexico. My father, an immigrant from Honduras with a temporary permit to work. My father, an immigrant from, at a young age, I was a translator for my mom, the oldest of three, and grew up with a heavy understanding of the word responsibility. I'm sorry, Professor Hardrick, I think I sent you the wrong presentation and I don't know what's next. So to avoid any of that, you can find like a slide that just has pictures. That would be great. Yes, thank you. And then if everybody else would just bear with me, I have a really interesting story, I promise. So as a first generation American, I was the first to do many things, and I have often felt as if I've been on this journey alone. Doing things on my own was like a badge of honor I proudly wore. However, I decided to finally stop telling myself that story when I discovered Journey to Esquire. But I do need to be honest, and not so much honest for myself or the people who know me, rather for the younger generations that are next. They need to know that success looks like a lot of failures leading you right to where you need to be. You don't need to have it all figured out to move forward. I remember starting undergrad thinking I picked the wrong school when I saw there was no major or degree for law. I had no idea that law school was a whole separate school and degree until my college counselor told me so right before my sophomore year. I spent the first 3 out of 4 years of undergrad trying to explain to my parents why I needed so much money for books, why I needed a meal plan, why I needed to study so late. My stress and guilt over the sacrifices my parents were making showed in my grades. This leads me to the next important lesson. When things go wrong, do what you need to do, but do not give up. The summer break after my first year in undergrad, I received an email from the registrar's office, subject line, academic probation. My heart sank, my cheeks flushed red, and I sat on the edge of my bed to finish reading the email. I had no idea you had to maintain a certain GPA, and I couldn't tell my parents. I couldn't picture their faces or their disappointment. I overloaded my plate to bring up my GPA because I refused having to utter the words, I got kicked out of school. I told no one, actually, to this day. I have yet to tell this story to many people, including my parents. So mom, dad, if you're watching, hi. When I finally got the hang of undergrad, I made a promise to myself that I would get law school right and seize every opportunity. I had a list of 10 schools, my first choice being Stetson. I studied for the LSAT like if it was my second part-time job. I had plan A through Z because my mediocre GPA was not going to keep me out of law school. This brings me to my next lesson. When things do not go according to plan, change the plan, but never the goal. I was a week into applying for schools when I found out I was pregnant. I had 2 thoughts in that moment. 1, I need to go to law school, and 2, I can't believe there's going to be a baby. My due date was in August, when classes usually start. In that moment, I refused to be yet another statistic of a Latina who gets married and has kids early without a career. I felt my dream of becoming a lawyer get further away. I heard the noise of just another one pregnant at 22 with no career. People have said I was brave, and I have said no, I was afraid. My fear of not becoming a lawyer was greater than my fear of going to law school with a baby. So I adjusted my plans. I applied to Cooley Law because it would allow me to start sooner. It just so happened my daughter came into this world the day of my Contracts 1 finals. I was off the next 3 weeks and then classes resumed, so I did too. My first year of law school, I learned how to be a mom, brief cases, nurse a newborn, make outlines, and sleep on a very random schedule. I got good grades, dean's list, honor roll, earned 2 certificate of merits, but I knew it was time for the next ambition. When someone tells you it can't be done, don't believe it. It's a reflection of their limitations, not yours. I remember first touring the Stetson Law Campus, Florida's first law school, and thinking, wow, this is not meant for someone like me. But I promised myself I would try. I got in, and when I got into Stetson, I still felt like I had no idea what I was doing. The transition came with its own set of new and different obstacles. The same year I started my 2L year was probably one of the hardest years for me. The next lesson, you learn more from failures than successes. My parents had just moved across the country and their immigration case was initiated. My dad's TPS was revoked. I petitioned for his residency and we waited. We waited for the hearing date to be set. We waited for the decision to be made. We waited for my dad's fate to be decided. And while I tried to keep up with my classes at my new school and my obligations to my own family, the question of whether my dad would have to return to a country he had not set foot in 30 years lingered. That leads me to my first fail in law school. Anyone who has gone through it or is in the practice of law now knows that mixing up deadlines is just about the worst thing you can do. Let's just call it a bad week. My brain could not balance every obligation on my plate. I missed a hard deadline, and to this day, I am forever grateful my professor did not fail me, but my GPA did suffer. And at the end of that 2L year, my dad's hearing was scheduled for the middle of my semester. I didn't share this with anyone, but I took off to California with my casebooks and notebooks to be there for my dad on a Thursday. That Thursday morning, we left the courtroom without a decision. The uncertainty lingered. It wasn't until the day before my first final of that semester that my dad called me to say, the judge said, "Welcome to America." I cried in the parking lot of the library. I was so relieved. As hard as that year was for me, the failures taught me it was time to learn how to ask for help. My third year looked so much brighter. I had the mental space to focus on my classes and get involved on campus. I volunteered. I completed externships, worked for a criminal defense lawyer. I even did an independent research project with the help of a professor. And with the help of this program, I was exposed to many different career paths and different lawyers. For example, I would have never learned what a clerkship was or known to even ask about it. Exposure. It makes a big difference when you take someone with a background similar to mine and expose them to the endless possibilities that exist at this new height. I now have a community that I can turn to and ask for their perspectives and wisdom. The last very important lesson I take from my journey to Esquire is pay it forward. My mentors have led by example. I cannot possibly take this experience and not do anything with it. I did not get here alone, no matter what I wanted to believe. I want to thank Professor Jocelyn Hardrick for always reminding me there is more than one means to a dream. I want to thank the board members for putting on such helpful and informative presentations for us that taught us so many skills. And I want to thank Judge Baggy Hernandez, my first mentor in this program, who has exemplified what it means to pay it forward and be there for someone who needs a moment of your time. So many lessons learned. And of course, thank you to my husband and daughter who have cheered me on from day one, and my parents who have set me from no matter what failures and successes I go through. Sincerely, thank you to everyone who is present in this moment for your contributions, efforts, and energy. The energy and efforts that were poured into me, I have no doubts they will trickle through my own efforts and energy that I pour into someone else, whether it is a case that it is in front of me, a fellow peer, or a mentee. Thank you.